The shuttle from the Qiangryang docked with the Eternal Blade 3 cycles after the chaos began. Captain Do-hyun stepped onto the Vexery flagship with Officer Jiwoo at his side. They carried no weapons, no guards, no protection of any kind. They came only with medical supplies, and the willingness to help. Commander Taiwan met them at the airlock. His uniform was torn and stained with the blood of his crew members. His 4 eyes were red with exhaustion, but he stood straight and proud, refusing to show weakness before the humans who had brought his world crashing down. Captain Do-hyun, Taiwan said through Jiwoo's translation device. Welcome aboard the Eternal Blade. I would say it is an honor, but I am not sure that is the correct word for this situation. Do-hyun nodded in understanding. Commander Taiwan, I know that you have many reasons to hate us right now. We have caused great suffering to your people. I cannot undo what has been done, but I can offer our help in making things better. Your help, Taiwan repeated. There was bitterness in his voice, but also curiosity. You destroyed us without firing a shot, and now you offer help. This is not how warfare works among the Vexery. We are not at war, Do-hyun said simply. We never were. We came here to explore, not to fight. The signal that caused your problems is part of every human greeting. We send it to everyone we meet. We did not target you specifically. Taiwan led them through the corridors of the ship. The damage was everywhere. Broken panels hung from the walls. Emergency lights cast red shadows on the floor. Crew members rushed past, carrying wounded or working to repair damaged systems. The smell of smoke and fear filled the air. You say you send this signal to everyone, Taiwan said as they walked. How many other species have you destroyed with your greeting? Do-hyun considered the question carefully. Destroyed is not the right word. We have encountered many species whose mathematics was flawed. Most of them experienced problems similar to yours when they received our signal. Some were angry, like you. Others were grateful to learn the truth. A few tried to attack us, but their weapons did not work any better than yours did. And what happened to those who attacked you? We defended ourselves, Do-hyun admitted. But we also helped them afterward. Humans believe that enemies can become friends if both sides are willing to try. They arrived at the medical bay, which was overflowing with injured crew members. Vexery doctors worked frantically to save lives, but they were overwhelmed. Do-hyun opened his case of medical supplies and began distributing them to the doctors. These are human medicines, he explained through Jiwoo. We modified them on the shuttle to work with Vexery biology. They should help with pain and infection. We also brought portable healing units that can treat minor injuries automatically. One of the Vexery doctors took the supplies with trembling hands. You bring healing to those you have harmed, she said. I do not know if this is kindness or cruelty. It is neither, Do-hyun replied. It is simply what we do. Humans believe that all life has value, even the lives of those who were once our enemies. We cannot take back the harm we have caused, but we can try to make things better going forward. Taiwan watched the human captain with new eyes. He had expected monsters. He had expected conquerors who laughed at the suffering they caused. Instead, he found a man who seemed genuinely troubled by the destruction his species had caused, yet remained certain that it was the right thing to do. Captain Do-hyun, Taiwan said, I must ask you something that has been troubling me since this began. Your signal contains a mathematical proof that our systems could not ignore. It forced our computers to recalculate everything. But you said this is just a standard greeting. How is it possible that a greeting could contain something so powerful? Do-hyun smiled slightly. That is a good question, Commander. The answer is complicated, but I will try to explain. They moved to a quieter corner of the medical bay, away from the chaos and noise. Do-hyun sat down on a crate of supplies, and Taiwan stood before him, listening intently. Centuries ago, when humans first began to explore space, we discovered that we were not alone. We met many species, and we noticed something strange. All of them had developed mathematics independently, and all of them had made small mistakes in their basic equations. The mistakes were different for each species, but they all had them. And humans did not make these mistakes? Taiwan asked. We did, Do-hyun admitted. But we also discovered them and corrected them. It took centuries of work by our greatest minds, but we eventually developed a mathematical foundation that was completely accurate. No errors, no flaws, no approximations. Pure truth. And you decided to share this truth with everyone you met. Yes, we believed it was the right thing to do. But we also knew that it would cause problems. When a computer receives information that contradicts its basic programming, it must either ignore the information or update itself. Most alien computers could not ignore our proof because it was too logical, too perfect. So they updated themselves, and the process was painful. Taiwan shook his head slowly. You knew the pain you would cause, and you did it anyway. You call this the right thing to do? I call it the necessary thing to do, Do-hyun replied. Commander, your Armada was built on flawed mathematics. That flaw would have caused disasters eventually. A fold space jump that went wrong. A weapon that exploded at the wrong time. A navigation error that sent ships into stars. By showing you the truth now, we gave you the chance to fix these problems before they killed you. Many have already died because of your truth, Taiwan pointed out. Yes, and I am sorry for that. But consider this. If we had not come, if you had never received our signal, how long would it have been before the flaw in your mathematics caused a catastrophe? 100 cycles? 1,000? And how many would have died then, when your entire civilization collapsed at once? Taiwan had no answer. He had never thought of it that way. The Vexury had always believed their technology was perfect, their mathematics beyond question. Now he was learning that they had been living on the edge of disaster for thousands of cycles without knowing it. The choice was never between pain and no pain, Do-hyun continued. The choice was between pain now, when you can learn and adapt, or pain later, when it might be too late. We chose to give you the pain now. We chose to give you a chance. A strange kind of gift, Taiwan muttered. The truth is always a strange gift, Do-hyun agreed. It hurts when you first receive it, but it makes you stronger in the end. At least, that is what we believe. Admiral Hyun-sik entered the medical bay, flanked by guards. He had changed into a clean uniform, and some of his old authority had returned to his bearing. He walked directly to Do-hyun and stood before him. Captain, Hyun-sik said, I have spoken with my commanders. We have decided to accept your offer of assistance, but we have conditions. Name them, Do-hyun replied. First, you will share all of your correct mathematics with us. Not just the proof, but the full foundation. We will not rebuild our civilization on partial knowledge. Agreed. Second, you will help us redesign our technology to use this new mathematics. Our engineers will need guidance. We will provide teachers and advisors for as long as you need them. Third, you will explain why you do this. Not the surface reason, not the practical reason, but the true reason. Why do humans share their truth with species who might become their enemies? Do-hyun stood and faced the Admiral directly. Because we believe that the universe is better when all species have access to the truth. We believe that lies and flaws create conflict, and that truth creates understanding. We share our knowledge because we hope that one day, all species will stand together as equals, working toward common goals instead of fighting over misunderstandings. Hyun-sik studied the human's face, looking for deception. He found none. You truly believe this? With all my heart, Do-hyun replied. Humanity has learned many hard lessons in our history. We have fought each other over differences that seem meaningless now. We have destroyed ourselves with lies and hatred. We do not want other species to make the same mistakes. So we shared the truth, even when it hurts. Because the alternative is worse. The Admiral was silent for a long moment. Then he extended his hand in a gesture that Jiwoo quickly translated as a sign of agreement among the Vexery. Captain Dohyun, the Vexery Armada accepts your offer. We will learn your mathematics. We will rebuild our technology. And we will remember that humanity gave us a painful gift that may have saved us from destruction. Dohyun took the Admiral's hand. Then let us begin, Admiral. There is much work to do, and the universe is waiting. Outside the medical bay, the chaos was slowly subsiding. Systems were stabilizing. Crew members were being treated. The Armada was broken, but it was not destroyed. And for the first time in their long history, the Vexery were ready to face the truth. 3 cycles had passed since the day that changed everything. The Vexery Armada had been reduced from 300 ships to just over 200. But those that remained were stronger than before. Their computers had finished recalculating. Their systems had stabilized. And their understanding of the universe had been transformed forever. Admiral Hyunsik stood before the High Council of the Vexery Empire in the Great Chamber on their home world. The council was made up of 12 elders, ancient Vexery who had ruled the empire for centuries. They sat on elevated thrones, looking down at the Admiral who had led the greatest armada in their history to defeat without firing a single shot. Admiral Hyunsik spoke Elder Woojin, the leader of the council. His voice was cold and sharp. You come before us to explain how 40 humans in a single ship destroyed half of our armada. Speak and choose your words carefully. Hyunsik bowed his head respectfully. Elders, I come not to make excuses, but to share the truth. The humans did not attack us. They sent us a standard greeting, the same greeting they send to every species they encounter. This greeting contained a mathematical proof that revealed a flaw in our most basic equations. A flaw? Elder Soin leaned forward, her 4 eyes narrowing. Our mathematics has served us for thousands of cycles. It built this empire. How can there be a flaw? The flaw was small, Hyunsik explained. So small that we never noticed it. Our equations work 99% of the time. We achieved great things despite the error. But the humans found the truth, the complete and perfect truth. And when they shared it with us, our systems could not ignore it. The council members murmured among themselves. This was not what they had expected to hear. They had expected tales of human weapons, human treachery, human aggression. Instead, they heard of truth and mathematics and a gift that had caused great pain. You speak of this as if it were a gift, Elder Woojin said skeptically. A gift that killed thousands of our people? A gift that destroyed our ships? What kind of species gives such gifts? A species that thinks differently than we do, Hyunsik replied. The humans believe that truth is more important than comfort. They believe that all species should have access to correct knowledge, even if receiving that knowledge is painful. They shared their truth with us because they believed it would help us in the long run, even though it hurt us in the short term. And you believe them? Elder Soin asked Don Hyun, as IK thought about the cycles he had spent with Captain Dohyun and his crew. He thought about the human doctors who had treated Vexery wounded without asking for anything in return. He thought about the human engineers who had worked alongside Vexery technicians to rebuild their systems. He thought about the conversations he had shared with Dohyun late into the night about the nature of truth and the purpose of power. Yes, Hyunsik said finally. I believe them. The humans are unlike any species we have ever encountered. They do not seek to conquer us. They do not seek to destroy us. They seek only to share their knowledge and build friendships. They are strange and sometimes frightening, but they are not our enemies. Elder Woojin stroked his chin thoughtfully. And what do you recommend, Admiral? Should we accept these humans as friends? Should we forget the thousands they have killed? I recommend that we remember, Hyunsik said. Remember the pain, remember the loss, remember the chaos, but also remember why it happened. It happened because we were living a lie without knowing it. The humans showed us the truth, and the truth was painful. But the alternative would have been worse. He paused, gathering his thoughts. Our mathematics was flawed. Sooner or later, that flaw would have caused a disaster far greater than anything we have experienced. A forward space jump that ended inside a planet. A weapons test that destroyed a city. A navigation error that sent our fleet into oblivion. The humans saved us from that fate by showing us the error before it could destroy us completely. The council was silent. Hyunsik could see that they were struggling with this information. Everything they believed about their civilization, their technology, their place in the universe had been called into question. It was not easy to accept such fundamental truths. There is something else you should consider, Hyunsik continued. The humans defeated our Armada with a greeting. They did not use weapons. They did not use ships. They simply said hello, and we fell. Imagine what they could do if they actually tried to harm us. Imagine what other truths they might know that could destroy everything we have built. You suggest that we cannot afford to make enemies of them. Elder Wujin observed. I suggest that making enemies of them would be foolish, Hyunsik agreed. But more than that, I suggest that making friends of them would be wise. The humans have knowledge that we need. They have truths that could make us stronger. If we work with them, we could build something greater than the Vexery Empire has ever been. The council members exchanged glances. Finally, Elder Wujin spoke again. Very well, Admiral. You have made your case. The council will consider your words and decide on a course of action. In the meantime, the human ship and its crew will be treated as honored guests. We will learn what we can from them and decide our future accordingly. Hyunsik bowed. Thank you, elders. I believe you are making the right choice. Later that day, Hyunsik met with Commander Taiwan in a private chamber overlooking the capital city. The sun was setting, casting orange light across the towers and domes of the ancient metropolis. It was a beautiful sight, a reminder of everything the Vexery had built over thousands of cycles. The council has agreed to welcome the humans, Hyunsik said. It is a beginning. Taiwan nodded slowly. I never thought I would see this day. The Vexery Empire, humbled by a single human ship. Our entire civilization shown to be built on lies. It is difficult to accept. The truth is always difficult, Hyunsik replied. But it is also freeing. We now know what we did not know before. We can build on solid ground instead of sand. That is something to be grateful for. Grateful? Taiwan looked at the Admiral with surprise. How can you be grateful to those who caused such destruction? Because the destruction was temporary, but the truth is permanent. Our ships can be rebuilt. Our systems can be restored. But now we will rebuild them correctly. Now we will restore them with perfect mathematics. The humans gave us a painful gift, but it was still a gift. Taiwan was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I spoke with Captain Do-Yoon yesterday. I asked him why humans share their knowledge instead of using it to conquer. Do you know what he said? What? He said that empires built on lies always crumble. He said that humans would rather build something that lasts, even if it takes longer and requires more effort. He said that truth is the only foundation strong enough to support true greatness. Hyunsik smiled slightly. The humans are idealists. They believe in things that seem impossible. They believe that species can work together instead of fighting. They believe that truth can overcome fear and hatred. Perhaps they are naive. Or perhaps they are right, Taiwan suggested. Perhaps, Hyunsik agreed. We will see. The galaxy is large, and there is much we do not know. But I believe that humanity has shown us something important today. They have shown us that there are other paths besides conquest. There are other kinds of strength besides weapons. And there are other victories besides destroying your enemies. The sun disappeared below the horizon, and the stars began to appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere among those stars, the Cheongryon waited, its crew of 40 humans ready to teach, to help, to share their truth with anyone who would listen. The Vexry Empire had been shaken to its core. Everything they believed had been challenged. Everything they trusted had been questioned. But out of that chaos, something new was being born. A partnership between species. A sharing of knowledge. A foundation built on truth instead of lies. The galaxy would never be the same again. And for the first time in their long history, the Vexry were excited to see what the future would bring. Admiral Hyunsik looked up at the stars and thought about the strange path that had led them here. A single ship, a simple greeting, a mathematical proof, and an entire civilization transformed forever. The humans are remarkable, he said quietly. Taiwan nodded. Yes, they are. And together, they watched the stars, wondering what other truths the humans might share, and what other wonders the universe had in store for those brave enough to seek them. Captain Dohyun stood at the center of the bridge of the Cheongryon, his hands clasped behind his back. He was a man of average height with short black hair and calm eyes that seemed to see everything. He had served in the Korean space fleet for 20 years, and he had seen many strange things in that time. But watching an entire alien armada fall into chaos was something new, even for him. The Cheongryon was a small ship, designed for exploration rather than war. It had a crew of 40, most of them scientists and engineers. They had been mapping new star systems when they stumbled upon the Vexry Armada. Dohyun had ordered the standard greeting protocol, as he did with every new contact. He had not expected this. "Captain," said Ensign Murray from her station at the communications panel. She was young, barely 25, with sharp eyes and quick fingers. "The alien fleet is in complete disarray. Multiple collisions detected. Their communication channels are flooded with distress calls." Dohyun nodded slowly. He had feared this might happen. Every human who traveled in space knew about the signal, as they called it. It was built into every ship's greeting protocol. It was not a weapon, not in the traditional sense. It was simply the truth. "How many ships are affected?" Dohyun asked. Murray checked her screens. "All of them, Captain. Every ship in the Armada is experiencing system failures. Their computers are trying to process the mathematical proof in our greeting, and they cannot handle it." Lieutenant Junho, the ship's chief engineer, looked up from his station. He was an older man with gray at his temples and grease stains on his uniform. "Captain, I have analyzed their technology. Their entire civilization is built on a flawed mathematical foundation. They have been using incorrect equations for centuries, maybe longer." Our greeting contained the correction. Their systems are now trying to recalculate everything they know. Dohyun closed his eyes for a moment. He remembered learning about this in the academy. Centuries ago, when humans first began to explore the stars, they discovered something important. Many alien species had developed space travel using mathematics that was close to correct, but not quite right. These species had built empires and armadas based on equations that worked most of the time, but not always. They never noticed the errors because they had never seen the correct math. Humans had noticed. Humans had found the truth, and they had decided to share it. "We did not attack them," Dohyun said quietly. "We simply said hello." "Yes, Captain," Junho replied. "But our hello contained a mathematical proof that their computers cannot ignore. Once they received it, their systems began to update automatically. They had no choice in the matter. Their own technology betrayed them, Myray turned in her chair to face the captain. Sir, should we help them? Many of their crew members are dying. Do-hyun thought about this carefully. The Vexery had come to this region of space to conquer. Their armada was designed to destroy and enslave. They had not come in peace. But they were also living beings, and they were suffering because of something that Cheongra had done, even if it was unintentional. Open a channel to their flagship, Do-hyun ordered. Let us see if they want our help. Officer Ji-woo, the ship's translator, moved to stand beside Myray. Ji-woo was tall and thin, with a talent for languages that had made him invaluable on exploration missions. He had studied hundreds of alien languages, and he could translate Vexery with reasonable accuracy. Channel open, Captain, Myray said. Do-hyun stepped forward and spoke clearly. This is Captain Do-hyun of the human vessel Cheongra. We mean you no harm. We understand that your systems are experiencing difficulties. We can help you, if you will allow it. There was a long silence. Then a voice came through the speakers, harsh and filled with anger. Human, what have you done to us? What weapon did you use? Ji-woo translated the response for the crew. The most of them could understand the tone, if not the words. Do-hyun remained calm. We used no weapon, he replied. Our greeting contained a mathematical proof. Your systems are recalculating based on this new information. The process is automatic. We cannot stop it, but we can help you manage it. Another silence. Then the Vexery voice spoke again, this time with less anger and more confusion. You expect us to believe that a greeting destroyed our Armada. You expect us to believe that you did this by accident? It was not entirely an accident, Do-hyun admitted. Humans discovered long ago that many species use flawed mathematics. We also discovered that sharing the correct mathematics causes problems for their technology. We could have removed this information from our greeting protocols, but we chose not to. Why? The voice demanded. Why would you do such a thing? Do-hyun looked at the main screen, where the chaos of the Vexery Armada played out in silent destruction. Ships burning, crew members dying, an empire brought low by nothing more than the truth. Because lies are dangerous, he said simply. Your mathematics worked well enough for you to build an armada. It worked well enough for you to conquer other species. But it was still wrong. Sooner or later, that wrongness would have caused a disaster far worse than this. A fold space jump that ended inside a star. A weapon that exploded in your hands. A navigation error that sent your fleet into the void between galaxies. He paused, letting his words sink in. We shared the truth with you because it was the right thing to do. We shared it in our greeting because we believe that truth should be the first thing any species receives from humanity. We are sorry for the pain it has caused, but we are not sorry for telling the truth. The Vexery voice was quiet for a long moment. When it spoke again, it sounded tired and old. Your truth has killed thousands of my people, human. Your truth has destroyed ships that took centuries to build. How can you call this the right thing to do? Do-hyun felt the weight of those words. He knew that the Vexery commander was not entirely wrong. The signal had caused tremendous damage. Many had died. But he also knew that the alternative was worse. Commander, he said, your armada came to this region of space to conquer. How many would have died if you had succeeded? How many species would have been enslaved or destroyed? We did not choose to be your enemies. You chose to be conquerors. And conquerors built on lies always fall. We simply showed you the lies before you could cause more harm. There was no response. The channel remained open, but the Vexery commander said nothing. Do-hyun turned to his crew. Prepare medical supplies and repair drones. When their systems stabilize, we will offer assistance. We will show them that humans are not their enemies, even if our truth has hurt them. Myray nodded and began to work. John-Ho returned to his station to prepare the repair drones. Ji-woo stood ready to translate any further communications. Captain Do-hyun looked at the burning Armada and thought about the strange path that had led humanity to this moment. They were a young species, small and few compared to the great empires of the galaxy. But they had something that no other species had. They had the truth, and they were not afraid to share it. The chaos would end eventually. The Vexery systems would stabilize once they finished recalculating. And when they did, the Vexery would have a choice to make. They could embrace the truth and build something new. Or they could reject it and destroy themselves, trying to hold on to their lies. Do-hyun hoped they would choose wisely. But either way, humanity would be there, ready to help or ready to defend themselves. That was the human way. Share the truth. Offer friendship. And be prepared for anything. The Cheonggyeong floated in space, small and quiet, waiting to see what the Vexery would decide. Admiral Hyunsik had ruled the Vexery Armada for 30 cycles. He had conquered 12 star systems. He had destroyed fleets that dared to stand against him. He had never known defeat. He had never known fear. Now he knew both. He sat in his command chair on the flagship Eternal Blade, watching his empire fall apart around him. The main screen showed the Armada, or what was left of it. Of the 300 ships that had entered this region of space, nearly 50 had been destroyed in collisions or system failures. Another 100 were drifting without power, their crews trapped and dying. The remaining ships were barely functional, their systems flickering and unreliable. All because of one small human ship. All because of a greeting. "Admiral!" shouted one of his officers, a young male named Suho. "The engineering deck reports that they cannot stabilize the main reactor. If we do not restore power within the next cycle, life support will fail." Hyunsik did not respond. He stared at the screen, at the human ship that floated peacefully among the wreckage of his fleet. It had not moved since the chaos began. It had not fired a single shot. It simply waited, like a patient predator watching its prey die slowly. "Admiral, what are your orders?" Suho asked, desperation in his voice. "Orders?" Hyunsik finally spoke. His voice was hollow, empty of the authority it once held. "What orders can I give? Our weapons do not work. Our engines do not work. Our computers are rebuilding themselves based on human mathematics that we do not understand. We cannot fight. We cannot run. We can only wait and hope that our systems recover before we all die." Suho's face went pale. He had served under Hyunsik for 15 cycles, and he had never seen the Admiral like this. Hyunsik was always strong, always confident, always in control. Now he looked like a broken old man. "Perhaps we should accept the humans' offer of help," Suho suggested quietly. "They said they would assist us if we allowed it." "Help?" Hyunsik laughed, but there was no humor in it. "They destroyed us, and now they offer help? This is a trick. It must be a trick." "With respect, Admiral, I do not think it is a trick," said a new voice. Chief Engineer Boyang stepped onto the bridge. She was old for a Veggery, with silver skin and deep lines on her face. She had served in the Armada longer than anyone, and she understood technology better than most. "I have studied the human signal. It is not a weapon. It is exactly what they said it is, a mathematical proof." "Explain," Hyunsik demanded. Boyang moved to a console and pulled up a display. Numbers and equations filled the screen, complex and strange. "Our entire civilization is built on a mathematical foundation that we developed thousands of cycles ago. This foundation has served us well. It gave us full space travel. It gave us advanced weapons. It allowed us to conquer the stars." She paused, her old eyes sad. "But it was wrong. Not completely wrong, just slightly wrong. A small error in our basic equations that we never noticed, because it rarely caused problems. The human proof shows us this error. It shows us the correct mathematics. And our computers, being logical machines, cannot ignore it. They are now trying to rebuild all of their calculations using the correct foundation. If our mathematics was wrong, how did we accomplish so much? Hyunsik asked. Because the error was small, Boyang explained. Our equations worked 99% of the time. We achieved great things despite the flaw. But the flaw was always there, waiting to cause problems. The humans simply showed it to us all at once, and our systems could not handle the shock. Hyunsik stood from his chair and walked to the main screen. He looked at the human ship, trying to understand the species that had done this to him. They had not come to fight. They had not come to conquer. They had simply passed through and said hello. And that hello had revealed that everything the Vexery believed was built on a lie. The humans knew this would happen, he said slowly. They knew their greeting would destroy us, and they sent it anyway. Yes, Boyang agreed. They chose to share the truth with us, knowing what it would do. I cannot say if this was kindness or cruelty. Perhaps it was both. Around them, the ship groaned and shuddered. Lights flickered. Crew members rushed to their stations, trying to keep the vessel alive. Reports came in from across the Armada. More ships failing, more crew members dying. More chaos spreading through the fleet. Admiral, Suho said urgently. We are receiving distress calls from the Iron Fist. Their reactor is going critical. They are requesting permission to evacuate. Evacuate to where? Hyunsik asked bitterly. Half our ships cannot support their own crews, let alone survivors from other vessels. Tell them to do what they can. We have no help to offer. Suho relayed the message, his voice heavy with despair. A moment later, the Iron Fist appeared on the main screen. It was a massive warship, one of the pride of the fleet. As they watched, its reactor exploded. The ship broke apart in a flower of fire and debris, taking 3,000 crew members with it. Hyunsik closed his eyes. 3,000 lives, gone in an instant. Not killed by human weapons, but by human truth. The irony was not lost on him. Admiral, Boyan said gently, our systems are beginning to stabilize. The recalculation process is completing on many ships. If we can survive the next few cycles, we may be able to restore basic functions. And then what? Hyunsik asked. Our weapons will work again? Yes. We can destroy the human ship and avenge our fallen. Boyang shook her head. I would not recommend that, Admiral. The humans did not attack us. If we attack them, we become the aggressors. And there is something else you should consider. What? The human ship sent a standard greeting. This means that every human ship carries the same signal. Every human outpost, every human station, every human colony. If we go to war with humanity, we will face this signal again and again. Our new systems will be designed to handle it, yes. But what else do the humans know that we do not? What other truths are they carrying that could destroy us? The question hung in the air like a blade. Hyunsik understood what Boyan was saying. The humans had defeated an armada with a greeting. What could they do if they actually tried to fight? You are suggesting we make peace with them, Hyunsik said. I am suggesting we be careful, Boyan replied. The humans have shown us that they are not like other species. They do not conquer through force. They conquer through truth. And truth, Admiral, is a weapon that cannot be defeated. Hyunsik returned to his command chair and sat down heavily. He looked at the wreckage of his fleet, at the bodies floating in space, at the ships that burned and died because of a simple mathematical proof. He had spent his entire life believing that strength was the only thing that mattered. Now he was learning that there were other kinds of strength, other kinds of power. Open a channel to the human ship, he ordered quietly. Suho hesitated. Admiral? Do it, Hyunsik said. Tell them that we accept their offer of assistance. Tell them that the Vexury Armada is ready to talk. Suho nodded and sent the message. A moment later, the human captain's voice came through the speakers, calm and steady. Admiral, this is Captain Do-Yun of the Qian Gryong. We are ready to help. Our medical teams and repair drones are standing by. We will begin sending assistance immediately. Hyunsik took a deep breath. Captain, your signal has killed thousands of my people. Your truth has destroyed my fleet. Before we proceed, I must ask you one question. Ask, Do-Yun replied. Why? Why do you share this truth, knowing the destruction it causes? There was a pause. When Do-Yun spoke again, his voice was thoughtful. Because lies are more destructive in the end, Admiral. Your fleet was built on a flaw. That flaw would have killed your people eventually, in ways far worse than this. We gave you the chance to fix it. What you do with that chance is up to you. Hyunsik nodded slowly, though the human could not see him. Very well, Captain. Send your help. And when this is over, we will talk about what comes next. We look forward to it, Admiral. Do-Yun out. The channel closed. Hyunsik leaned back in his chair and watched as small human shuttles began to launch from the Qian Gryong, carrying help to the dying fleet. The Armada's collapse was complete. Now came the hard part, deciding what to build from the wreckage. The Vexury Armada moved through the darkness of space like a swarm of metal insects. 300 warships, each one larger than a small moon, traveled together in perfect formation. They had been traveling for 6 standard cycles, and they were hungry for conquest. The Outer Rim held many worlds that had not yet learned to fear the Vexury name. Soon, they would learn. Commander Taiwan stood on the bridge of the flagship, the Eternal Blade. He was tall for a Vexury, with gray skin and 4 eyes that never seemed to blink. His uniform was black with silver markings that showed his rank. He had served in the Armada for 40 cycles, and he had never lost a battle. The thought of losing had never even entered his mind. The bridge was busy with activity. Dozens of crew members sat at their stations, watching screens and pressing buttons. The hum of the ship's engines filled the air like a constant heartbeat. Everything was normal. Everything was as it should be done. Then the sensors screamed. The sound was sharp and loud. Every crew member on the bridge froze. Taiwan turned his 4 eyes toward the main screen, and what he saw made his blood run cold. A ship had appeared from Fold space. It was small, barely the size of a Vexury cargo vessel. But it was not Vexury. The design was strange, with smooth curves and a white hull that reflected the light of distant stars. Report, Taiwan said. His voice was calm, but inside, he felt something he had not felt in many cycles. He felt uncertain. Lieutenant Yuna rushed to his side. She was young, with only 10 cycles of service, but she was smart and quick. Her fingers flew across her datapad as she pulled up information about the unknown vessel. Commander, the ship's design does not match any known species in our database. It is human. Taiwan's eyes narrowed. He had heard of humans. Every species in the galaxy had heard of humans. They were a young race, barely 1,000 cycles old in terms of space travel. They came from a small blue planet in a forgotten corner of the galaxy. Most species did not take them seriously. They were too few, too weak, too primitive. Or so everyone believed. One human ship against 300 Vexury warships, Taiwan said. This is either madness or a mistake. Hail them. Yuna nodded and sent the hailing signal. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then the human ship responded. It sent a simple transmission, nothing more than a standard greeting. The kind of message that any ship would send when meeting another. It was polite. It was harmless. and it was the beginning of chaos. The moment the human signal reached the Eternal Blade, the ship's systems began to fail. Screens flickered. Lights dimmed. The hum of the engines changed to a stuttering whine. Taiwan grabbed the railing in front of him as the floor shook beneath his feet. "What is happening?" he shouted. Yuna's face was pale with fear. "Commander, the navigation systems are offline. Weapons are offline. Communications are... I cannot reach any other ship in the Armada." Taiwan looked at the main screen. He could see the other ships in the Armada, and what he saw filled him with dread. Ships were spinning out of control. Some had stopped moving entirely. Others were drifting toward each other, their pilots unable to steer them away. As he watched, two destroyers collided in a silent explosion of fire and metal. "This cannot be," Taiwan whispered. "One signal. One greeting. How is this possible?" Yuna was frantically working at her station, trying to restore the ship's systems. "Commander, the human signal contained a mathematical sequence. Our computers are trying to process it, but it does not make sense. The math is different. It is showing our systems that our calculations are wrong." "Wrong?" Taiwan repeated. He did not understand. Vexary mathematics had built their civilization. It had given them full space travel. It had given them weapons that could destroy planets. How could it be wrong? "The sequence is a proof," Yuna explained. Her voice was shaking. "It proves that the foundation of our mathematics is flawed. Our computers are trying to recalculate everything based on this new information. That is why they are failing. They are trying to rebuild themselves from the ground up." Taiwan stared at the human ship on the screen. It hung in space, small and quiet, doing nothing. It had not fired a single weapon. It had not made any aggressive move. It had simply said, "Hello, Dot," and that hello had brought the greatest armada in Vexary history to its knees. Reports began to flood in from across the fleet. Ships were crashing into each other. Crew members were trapped in sections that had lost power. The medical bays were overflowing with injured. Some ships had lost life support entirely. Thousands were dying, and the human ship just floated there, waiting. "We must destroy it," Taiwan said. "Fire everything we have." "We cannot," Yuna replied. "Our weapons are offline. We have no way to attack them." For the first time in 40 cycles of service, Commander Taiwan felt true fear. He had faced enemies that outnumbered him. He had faced enemies with superior firepower. But he had never faced an enemy that could defeat him without fighting at all. He looked at the small human ship and wondered, what kind of species could do such a thing? What kind of species would build a greeting that could destroy fleets? Were they monsters? Were they gods? Or were they something else entirely? Something that the Vexary could not understand. The chaos continued to spread through the Armada. Ships burned. Crew members screamed over dying communication channels. And in the middle of it all, the human ship remained still and silent, like a predator watching its prey struggle in a trap. Taiwan knew that this was only the beginning. The humans had not attacked them. They had not threatened them. They had simply shown the Vexary that everything they believed was built on lies. And that was far more terrifying than any weapon could ever be. He stood on the bridge of his dying ship and waited to see what the humans would do next. Whatever it was, he knew that the Vexary would never be the same again. The age of Vexary supremacy was over. It had ended not with a war, not with a battle, but with a simple signal from a small ship. And Commander Taiwan could only watch as his entire world fell apart around him.